Be making today, we're making an appleberry pie, and hopefully you've already got the recipe sorted for that, the ingredients and equipment that you need to begin. But don't worry, we're going to give you a recap before we start of everything that you'll need, just as a little reminder, everything you'll need this morning, both equipment and ingredients. But we're also going to look at a little bit about food hygiene and getting ourselves prepared, because I'm not prepared yet to cook, and we're going to need to get all of you prepared as well at the same time. So that's what we're going to do to start with. Just give it a minute or so for everybody else to log in. Now, if you can see behind me, we've got my slide presentation on this side, and we're going to be using the whiteboard here to do some teaching today. We're going to do a little bit of fun food science to go with our food that we're cooking today as well. We're going to be looking at a particular word called shortening, and that we'll tell you all about that and the science behind that. Excellent. So we've got everybody there joining us. You can all hear us. Class is filling up on Teams, and I can see people joining us from there as well. So it'd be interesting to know. Let's find out where's everyone who's watching today on YouTube is around the country. It'd be great to hear where you are. That would be great. Questions already coming in off YouTube are: should the butter be cold? Ideally, it should be as cold as you can have it. Don't worry if it's not particularly cold. I'll tell you what, if you're down here, we're down in Devon this morning. It is not the sunny Devon this morning. It is pretty chilly out there and a little bit wet, but I think I might just put that out. I'm looking outside the door here. I might put that one out the door to cool it down, but no, cool as you can make it. That would be great. Who's that? Matt Faulkner, who's just said that on YouTube. Fabulous. Oh, we got people from Surrey watching this morning. Okay, and I can see my class is filling up on Teams as well. That's good to know. So any questions? We're simultaneously doing this one from both Teams and from YouTube this morning, and we'll just get started. I can see that you might say my class at school is just filling up. If you have any more questions down there, so shout out to Surrey this morning. That's fantastic to see you all there. Brilliant. RAAS, excellent, as well as TGGS school. That's good to know. And like I say, we're going to be going through this step by step for everybody, so don't worry about anything here. I've got my board here. We'll use the camera. We'll get in close and talk to everything. We've got a couple of hours to sort all this one, and I'll take any questions you want as we're going along so we can get this one sorted. Right, more questions. Yeah, thank you. That's fine. You've got found us on YouTube. Brilliant. Good to see. So we've got a backup for all of this. All right. Okay. So I think we're giving it 5 minutes there. I think we're ready to go. It looks like we've got a good number of you joining us this morning from different schools, joining us at Torquay Girls Grammar School today, TGGS. Right, you might have seen, the presentation behind me. This is going to have the step-by-step recipe up here on the board, and I'll talk you through step-by-step all the photographs of what we're going to do today. So please don't worry, it'll take you through. It's quite a relaxed cook-along, so we can have a bit of fun with it today, make a bit of a mess, but also get lots of learning done and make some wonderful food products. Now, the PowerPoint I'm using this morning is courtesy of a fantastic organisation called Hodder Education, and I'm using that as a template for today's PowerPoint. So if you're looking at that and thinking, what is that? That's Hodder Education, fantastic package there for schools. Right, so let's get started for today. I'm just going to literally move down through my presentation as we do it on the board and talk you through it. The first thing we need to do is get ourselves ready. So let me just move that one so you can see that a bit better on the board for our Appleberry pies. The first thing we're going to do today is we're going to get ourselves ready. Now, this is the first lesson of my Year 7 class I'm cooking with. So we need to put some rules and regs in there, some safety first, because we're going to be cooking in a kitchen. I'm going to be cooking in my kitchen today. I'm going to give you a tour around my kitchen today. So the few things we need to put in place first, we need to talk about. You need to play it safe in the kitchen, all right? There are risks, inherent risks, and risks of injury and hurting yourself when you're in a kitchen. I'm going to talk you through that one. But because there are risks, we need to play it safe. That means you need to have grown-up supervision and or permissions to be able to cook at home. And hopefully, we've got lots of grown-ups cooking with us today as well and joining in. That would be fabulous. So make sure you've got, it's safe to do so, you have permission and grown-up nearby to be able to cook before you do that. And disclaimer and information about that is underneath on the YouTube. And like at school, you need to be aware of these rules and regulations. I will talk you through it, but just make sure that you have someone there to lend a hand and we can have a bit of fun cooking as a massive family today. Okay, so that's a little bit about safety there. Now, the next thing about safety we need to think about in the kitchen to play it safe when we're cooking is we need to get everything ready. We need to get ourselves ready. We need to get our areas ready. We need to collect all our equipment and ingredients to make sure we are ready. Now, how do we remember everything that we have to do? Because there's quite a lot of bits and pieces we need to remember coming up to play it safe in the kitchen. Well, we have this thing called HATTIE, H-A-T-T-I-E. Now, let's think, what does that stand for? Well, I'm going to tell you some helpful things that this stands for to remember everything you need to do to set up in the kitchen. Let me just check if we've got any more questions. We have a couple more questions coming in. Okay, fabulous. I'm going to be on the call. Fabulous. If you're on the call, you're at school, you can still join the call if you want to. A couple of us, if you're unable to, brilliant. So lots of good things here about mums cooking. Right, some people are cooking with parents and all sorts. We've got all sorts of people telling me who they're cooking with, mums and dads and all sorts coming up on the line there. That's great to know. And again, if you want shout out, I'm happy to shout out to any parents who are also watching on today's show lesson in today we've got for you. All right, let's get back to it. Getting ready, HATTIE. What does HATTIE stand for? Well, I'm going to just show you. It's a really nice, easy way to remember what you have to do before you start to cook. And again, I'm going to quickly show on the board. Hopefully you can see a little bit of what's on the board, but if you can't quite read it, I'm going to talk you through it as always. So H, this stands for tie your hair back. Okay, so H for hair, tie your hair back. Now, I haven't got a lot of hair to worry about, and we're talking about really long hair. Make sure it's tied up properly, maybe a hairband, maybe a little scrunchie there, so we don't get any hair into our food. We don't want any of that. That's called contamination, and we don't want any contamination in our food. So make sure your hairs are tied back if you've got long hair in one way or another. Okay, or it says wear a hat if you wanted to. Next is wash your hands. Now, really, really important in these days that we're in at the moment, these crazy days, that we make sure we wash our hands really, really thoroughly, but particularly before we start to cook. Okay, again, we don't want to become making ourselves ill. That would be silly. So we're going to make sure that we've washed our hands properly as well. Put an apron on. And again, this might seem a little bit silly to be wearing an apron in your own kitchen, at home, broadcasting home rather than in school. But it is important. We want to make sure that we are making ourselves ready when we're in the kitchen. We don't want any contamination going on. So we're going to make sure we've got an apron on, okay, or some sort of. I'm actually going to wear an apron and my wipes this morning to make sure I'm completely clean and ready to go. Okay, so that's H-A-T. Now, the T here is the tabletops. Is your tabletop clean and ready to go as well? So it's not just about you, but make sure your area that you're going to work in is lovely and clean as well. Anti-bac spray is always a good one at these times as well as when we're cooking. So make sure it's good and clean before we start. Then I've suggested another T for a tray to collect all your equipment and ingredients on, to keep it all together. So when we're cooking, we can be organised, and organised is good so that we know where we're going and what we're doing. Okay, and then what I said there is I and E at the end. Again, I is for the ingredients, E is for equipment. We're going to go through both of those to make sure we've got all of that and all that together. All right, I think we're nearly getting ready to do our first activity, and that is purely going to be me going to wash my hands, and we're going to wash our hands properly and get ourselves ready. Okay, before I do that, my new addition to the family is just going. And this is a good point. Now, before we start, let me just get her up because she's wanting to be on. Here we go. Then. Oh. Before we start to cook and I wash my hands, are you going to say hello to the camera? There we go. Hello, Rosie. Rosie, you going to say hello to everybody? Rosie's just wanting to know what's going on up here. So we'll just say hello to everybody. Hello, Rosie. There we go. You can see what we're all up to? Yeah. Oh, you're tired. All right, let's get you down. We're going to wash our hands now properly before we start to cook. Down you go, Rosie. Right, so if you'd like to come with me, we're just going to wash our hands. I'm just going to go over to my sink now and just going to go and wash my hands properly before we start. So here we go. I'm just going to bring you round. Hopefully you can see me there. Here we go. And I'm just going to, oops, there we go. Just going to bring that over here. Apologies. The table's all a little bit caught up this morning. There we go. Now you can see me. I'm just going to bring that over to my kitchen cupboard there, and there we go. Hopefully you can all see me there. So like I say, really important during these times to make sure that we wash our hands, but really also important when we are about to cook. So here we are at my kitchen sink, and I'm just going to wash my hands properly before we start to cook. So here we've got some soap, and I'm just going to rub my hands together, both sides. I'm just going to go into those fingers, nails areas. Fabulous. Round my thumbs, both thumbs. I'm going to do the back of my hands just to make sure they are properly cleaned there. And then when I've covered it with soap, I'm going to go with some hot soapy water and do the same again. So I'm rubbing my hands together. I'm doing wearing my nails on both sides. I'm doing the back of my hands, both sides. I'm using my thumbs to making sure we're cleaned all around our thumbs and our wrists. Don't forget the wrists as well. All of our hands are lovely and clean. And how long do we have to do that for? Well, you know, you've been getting it drummed into you left, right, and centre moment, but it's 20 seconds. Now, how do we remember 20 seconds? Again, you probably know this already now, but that's happy birthday twice. So kiss a happy birthday to you, birthday to you, happy birthday, and so on. Now, I have done that for the correct amount of time. Just going to dry my hands off there. Okay, and now to make sure I'm keeping really safe as well, I'm just going to have I've got some bacterial hand gel, sanitizing gel, there we go. And we're just going to put some of that on as well. So we are properly clean and ready to start to cook. Okay, let's come back to the screen here. I'm just coming back to you all now. There we go. My hands are lovely and clean. We are nearly ready to go there to start to cook. So there we go. Let's just click that back in. Okay, my hands are lovely and ready to go. We're nearly ready to go. The next thing I need to do is the A for an apron. So I'm going to put on 2 bits of protection to that. I'm going to wear my wipes, my Food Teacher Centre wipes. That's from the Food Teacher Centre Association of Food Teachers. There we go. Just put that one on there so we're all nice and protected and ready to go. Fabulous. All right, nice and ready to go. Right, questions we got coming in. Any more questions we've got coming in there? Little bit blurry on there. Sorry about that, but hopefully you can all see us well. Good, yeah, they can see us now. So I'm just going to get myself completely, apron all around, there we go, aprons on as well. Hopefully you've got your aprons on as well this morning when you're ready to cook as well. So there we have it, aprons on, and I have nearly ready to get myself ready. I now need to get my work area ready, okay? So we're going to do this one together, just going through it step by step, and we're going to do the whole cooking and everything together with one another, okay? So here we have the next step. Is your work surface clean? Yep, I have cleaned my work surface. It is lovely and clean and ready to go, okay? So that's lovely and ready to go. The next one after that. Have I collected something to put all my ingredients and equipment on? Yes, I have. It's just over here beside me. And I'm now going to go through all of that equipment and ingredients that you're going to need for today's lesson. So we'll go through this one step by step as a little reminder. And I'll show you some alternatives. So people are already asking about alternatives. Let's give you the idea of what we're going to do for alternatives. So on the screen here, I'm just going to move on there for you. And you can see, let's start with ingredients first. And then we'll go on to equipment. Let me just grab some of that for you. We've got Okay, so we've got lots of different ingredients and equipment for today. Ingredients for today. Let's look at that first. We've got a cooking apple. Now, we've got different sorts of apples we're going to be using today. And we've got a cooking apple, which is this big looking, and it's a local one, which is good. So we need to think about food provenance and sustainability, and we need to think about where our foods come from an environmental point of view, reduce those food miles. And obviously, if we're also staying local at the moment, it's a good thing. So these are local cooking apples. Now, if you haven't got cooking apples, it will work with eating apples as well. And the next thing we actually require is some eating apples. So I've got some an eating apple here, and we've got one of those here. Now, you can see there's a real big difference in size there between a cooking apple and an eating apple, which will actually become useful later on. But the taste is also slightly different as well. We've got one that is very sweet, and we've got one that is very sour. We're going to be using both of those in our food. Anyone guess which is sweet and which is sour? If I mix those up, you can't remember. Which is the sour one? If let's have a look. Who can come up quickly with an answer there on there? Which is the sour apple? Okay, who's going to be first? Oh, yeah, go. We have got, yes, the cooking apple. Well done. Yeah, the cooking apple is the sour one. Yep, well done. We've got a few people there online, both YouTube. Dylan, well done. And back at school, we've got 2 of you there who got that correct as well. And we've got the cooking apple, which is the eating apple, which is really sweet. So we very aptly, yes, it's a very aptly day. I've got some comments coming in. We've got very aptly day. Appleberry pie, of course we have. Now the next thing we're going to be using some vanilla. Now you need to be using, I would say, a vanilla extract or a vanilla paste or real vanilla. We're going to be using some vanilla paste. This is again a local one. This particular brand is Little Pod. Lovely vanilla paste, some of the best you can get. But vanilla extract is good. What you don't really be going for, we're going to try and stay clear of vanilla flavouring. Now, why is that? Well, vanilla flavouring is actually made from an artificial vanillin, which is a bit like a petrochemical. So we want to be staying clear of putting chemicals into our bodies that aren't the real thing. So we're using the real thing, which is this, and you can tell it's the real thing, whether it's an extract or a real one. But Madagascan vanilla, and this is what this is. It's a Madagascan vanilla, so that's perfect. Someone said, I have Madagascan vanilla. Does that matter? No, this is Madagascan, but it's a local company that imports it to me down here in Devon, and this is absolutely amazing. I love this. So I don't know if you can quite see on the camera there, but the vanilla is a really dark colour. Okay, and you might even be able to see the seeds if I just move that around a bit. You'll actually be able to see the dark black seeds on there as well of the vanilla. So vanilla's not yellow, and you kind of find these flavourings which are bottles of yellow stuff. It's not. Vanilla is like a dark colour, and you can see that just that dark vanilla paste there. It's gorgeous. Absolutely delicious. So I'm going to use a bit of vanilla. But say if you can try and go for a little an extract or a good quality paste like this Little Pod one, is absolutely delicious. And you've got to be thinking about these sort of companies as well that use real vanilla. It's going to be, there is a little bit more of a cost, and I get that there is a bit more of a cost. But you've got to be thinking we're trying to support farmers who are out there, so you want to be. It does cost a little bit more. But then it's individually farmed. These are growing. Vanilla is you probably haven't, I'm sure you haven't seen it grow. But vanilla is a plant that grows up the sides of trees in rainforests, like Madagascar, in big rainforests, and it actually grows around the trees. And people have to climb up there. You don't have vanilla farms. You have to climb up to go and get these vanilla. So hence why it's so expensive. But a really lovely ingredient to have. So we're going to be using vanilla. Then we've got some berries. Now, it wouldn't be an appleberry pie without some berries. So we've got some berries. Now, unfortunately, at this time of the year, you're not going to necessarily find fresh berries around. These we are going to use strawberries today. These aren't so local, but what you could do is you could use frozen British ones, and you could defrost those ones. So frozen berries would be great. There's a lot of frozen berries that are out there in the shops at the moment, and you could use that for this one. This would work really, really well. You can also use canned British strawberries as well. So strawberries, berries on that one. Now, if you haven't got strawberries, someone's saying here, I haven't got strawberries. Can I cook with any other berries? Yes, of course. Any fruits of the forest type berries works really well. Summer fruits, frozen summer fruits, any of those would do. And it doesn't matter if it's canned or frozen. Those will work really, really well. And you're still going to get all the good vitamins and minerals that you would get, whether it's canned, whether it's frozen, or whether it's fresh. Okay, so don't be worried about that. We can use a selection of these different berries when we're talking about the ingredients that we're using for today. Okay, the next one is a weird one, and it's a little bit weird because of how it feels. Now, this one here is a flour called cornflour. Now, what is cornflour? It's got a picture of gravy there. We're actually going to use it to help make a sauce in our pies, to make it thick inside our pies. Not a gravy sauce. We're going to be making a beautiful fruity sauce in this one. So that's what we're going to use to make it. Now, if you haven't got cornflour, custard powder, which has got the similar sort of properties, will work really, really well, because that will thicken to make the sauce as well. So a dry custard powder, corn flour, if you've got it, and you can feel the difference in corn flour. If you squeeze the corn flour between your fingers, it has this weird, like almost squeaky, it's really weird, almost like you're cotton woolly when you're squeezing it. So there we go. You can use custard powder or corn flour, so there's an alternative there for you as well. Then we've got flour and we've got butter. Now, flour, there's so many different types of flour. So this is our first cooking lesson for you, Year 7. I thought I'd just quickly go, and if you're on YouTube, just quickly go through different types of flour. So you probably know something called these two, but let's go through those two first. We're going to be using the plain flour today. We're using this one, plain flour. But there's two different types. There's two main. You might have had these ones before. This is self-raising flour. So this one you might be using for cakes. Okay. You might be using that one for muffins. So cakes, muffins, and the like for this one. Plain flour we will use for pastry and those sort of bits and pieces as well. So we're going to be using a plain flour today. Now, if you haven't got plain flour, you might find that you've got some other sorts. Let me just grab the other sorts here that we've got. And we've got different sorts of flour here. Just going to grab the other sorts of flour that we've got. We've got there it is, a bread flour. So we've got some bread flour, and again, I know that's quite hard to get hold of at the moment, but this is bread flour there, which we could use instead. But ideally, you want to be using a plain flour here for today's. Okay, so hopefully you've got some plain flour, but if you haven't got plain flour, you could use a bread flour. We don't really want to be using a self-raising flour. What do you think? Well, you tell me. What does a self-raising flour do? What's it? How's it different? Anybody? Let's have a quick question. So who's going to answer quickest? Is it going to be YouTube, or is it going to be my school team? Who's going to be self-raising flour? What does it do? What's it do? What does self-raising flour do? Who's going to be quickest off the mark here? I'm just looking at YouTube. I'm looking at my class. Exactly, my class got there. It raises it. Okay, so raising up. Absolutely. So we don't want our pastries to rise. We want a lovely crisp finished pastry on there. So that's the reason why we're using a plain flour. Or if you haven't got plain flour, we could use some bread flour, but it'll be a little bit tougher. And we'll tell you about why that would be tougher in a moment. But plain flour ideally. All right, nearly done. The next one we need to be using is a butter. Now, a butter or baking fat would work really well. So we've got a butter baking fat there. Now, we're trying to look at veganuary in our household. We're trying as much as possible to try and look at different ingredients for veganuary. So we're going to use this actually instead. And this is a plant-based butter fat. And we can use that one instead. So we'll be using that one today. But it doesn't matter if you've got a dairy one, or a dairy alternative for today's ingredients. And hopefully that makes sense from all the ingredients point of view, and you've had a chance to just get that all set up in your area, ready to go. Next, we need to look at the equipment you're going to need today. So let's just go and a recap through there on the board there of the different the different equipment you're going to need for today. So the equipment you're going to need for today are this. And again, I'll go through some alternatives for you so you can have a look around your kitchen to see what you've got. Firstly, we've got a chopping board. So we need something to chop things onto. Now at school, we've got different color chopping boards. Now I appreciate at home, you might not have different color chopping boards. So we'd be using a white chopping board at school at the moment to do this on, and green for fruits and vegetables, that sort of thing. And you've probably got a whole array. There's blue for fish, there's red for chicken. Today we're at home, we're going to use what we've got. So chopping boards, doesn't matter the color, as long as if you've got a wooden one or a white one today. We don't want to be using red or blue ones because they're for meat and fish. But if you've got green one, a white one, a wooden chopping board, that'll be good for today. A knife. Now I've said a knife there, and I've said a chef kitchen knife or paring knife. What I'm looking for that is a sharp knife. Now this will be the first time you've been using this with me in my class, so we've got to just quickly go through a bit of knife safety here. This is a sharp knife, but this is the smallest of my sharp knives, and this is called a paring knife, as opposed to larger ones which you've got like chef knives or cook's knife. A paring knife. Now, just a few rules of knife safety with this one, okay? When you're not using the knife, can you make sure it's safely in the middle of your table, not anywhere where it's going to fall on feet or toes? Okay. Can you also make sure when you've got your knife here that you hold it correctly when you're walking around? So the point should be to the floor, the blade should be to the back, and you should always be walking like a soldier, so it's beside you when you're walking around. Only one knife at a time when you're going around the kitchen or moving around at all away from your work area. When you go to wash up your knife, please make sure it's the first thing you wash up, and also don't let go of it in the washing up bowl, and don't use a cloth or your hands to wash it. Try and use a brush if you can to just brush off the debris and clean it off, and then place it at the back of your drying area, and don't be using a tea towel to dry it up, because again you could hurt yourself. You're better off to leave it to drip dry at the back of your drying area. Alternatively, you might be using dishwasher at home rather than in school. But just a few basic rules there. Obviously it's very sharp, so again, no playing with it, no running with it, no pretend sword fights with it or anything silly like this. It's a dangerous item, so treat it with some respect. I'm going to be using a sharp knife there. Okay, the next one we're looking at is a mixing bowl. So I've got a variety of different mixing bowls here, which I'm going to be using with you today. Just some clear ones so you can see what I'm doing there. So we've got some of the mixing bowls right there. And then we've got some different size spoons as well. We've got a tablespoon and we've got a teaspoon. So we've got some tablespoons and teaspoons. That's little spoons and big spoons. So if you've got some of those, that would be fabulous. We're going to use this big little spoon in a weird way in a moment. We've got a peeler. Now you might have different sort of peeler to me, but this is like a long peeler. Sometimes you might have a Y-shaped peeler. So a little peeler. We've got a pastry brush. Okay. So we've got a little pastry brush here, but if you haven't got a pastry brush at home, a nice clean paintbrush or a paintbrush you've not used before will work. I mean, we might even get to use your fingers, but that's what we get. It's an alternative there. It's optional. A pastry cutter. So what's a pastry cutter? So we've got some pastry cutters here. Let me get you them. They're like, here we go, round pastry cutter. Now, if you haven't got a round pastry cutter, what is really useful is tuna tins. Old tuna tins work really well as pastry cutters. So just making use of what you might have at home there. So a pastry cutter, a tuna tin, anything like that to cut out your pastry. And then we've got a rolling pin. And again, it doesn't matter. I've got the rolling pin there. Let me put that aside. I've got a rolling pin there to roll out my pastry. Now, again, it doesn't matter if you haven't got a rolling pin. You could use, I don't know, an old cordial bottle, like a glass bottle there, something like that. Just be careful with glass so that it doesn't fall when we're doing that one. All right, so they're the optional bits and pieces. I think I've got really ready to go. The only other thing to think about is something to actually cook this in the oven, like a tray. Let me just grab my tray. We've got a tray here you can use. So we've got a tray just here. And we can just grab it. We've got a tray just here, there it is, and we've got some paper in. Now, what is the best tray for cooking the Appleberry pies in? Well, I'm going to show you a little trick with the tuna tins in a minute. But ideally, when you're doing this one, you could actually use a cake tin or a muffin tin. They work really well to hold the apples in, or a little small tray, but we'll show you that later on. Okay, any questions? No. I think that should be all. That's all the equipment ready, all the ingredients ready. We're ready. We're ready to start. Now, I know it's quite long-winded, but I want to make sure we're there because, like I say, for my class back at school, this is your first time you cook with me at Talking Girls Grammar School, and obviously you're at home on YouTube, and I need to make sure you've got everything in place as well. Everyone ready to begin? Are we all ready now? Hopefully we are. Okay, let's get going. So we're now going to be making our Appleberry pie. So let's go with this one. Here we go. And we got, and again, if you've got any issues while we're going along that, or any questions you want to ask, just put it in the live chat, either on Teams for Talkie Girls Grammar School, or for the YouTube. You can put that on the live chat down beside us on YouTube there, and that's absolutely fine. Right. Now, you can see on the board here my step-by-step recipes, and they're in picture step-by-step recipes for you, and I'm going to go through it step-by-step as well for you. So please don't worry about that. We'll all be doing this one together, and we're going to have some beautiful, tasty food at the end of it. All right, let's get started then. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get our flour weighed out. We're doing 100 grams of flour. So let me get my mixing bowl ready there. Here's my mixing bowl, and we're going to get 100 grams of flour into my mixing bowl here. Okay, so here's my plain flour, and we're going to measure it out. Now, if you haven't got scales at home, don't worry. We're going to do this by spoons as well. So we'll do it by spoons and handfuls if need be as well to get this one. So if you haven't got a scale like I've got today, you can absolutely use spoons as well. So let's just, there we go, just move that one there for you to see. Just going to move that one across and bring that one in closer for you. Let's zoom down. There we go. And let's zoom in for you as well. Okay. So in this bowl here, we're going to have there 100 grams of flour. Now, if you're measuring this out in spoonfuls, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Normally gives you 100 grams. Actually, that's 98, so that's not far off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. And now there we have 200 grams of it. So 200 grams of flour. And if you're doing it in spoonfuls, then we're looking at 10 of those. Okay, so you can either measure this by spoonfuls, or ideally you'd be using scales if you can do that. So you've got yourself your 100 grams of plain flour. Okay. Apologies, Talking Girl Grammar, it appears that Teams is glitching a bit. You can always hop, skip, and a jump over to YouTube Fun Kitchen, and it's live streaming on there as well. So if you are having glitchy internet problems with Teams this morning at school, you can always move over and watch that one. Okay, so we've got the flour in there. The next thing we need to add after we put the flour into our pastry, for our pastry, is going to be the butter. Or the baking fat for you. So we're going to be putting the baking fat into this one, and we're going to be putting in half the amount of that. So it's 50 grams now. So we've gone, oh, sorry, apologies. I've just done 200 grams there because I'm making twice as much. I've just made a mistake there. It should be 100 grams, and I put yourself in 200 grams. So it's just 5 tablespoons. My apologies. Let me put half of that back. So 5 tablespoons. I'm going to confuse you otherwise. I'm making you twice that. So just 5 tablespoons, 100 grams in there. And we just put half of mine back, so we're only doing 100 grams today. There we go. Don't know why I said 200. I'm looking at this afternoon's recipe at the same time. So 100 grams. There we go. All right, so we've got our 100 grams of flour in there, 5 tablespoons of flour. Apologies. We're now going to be putting in the fat. So the fat into this one is half that, say 50 grams. Now, again, if you haven't got scales, conveniently on butter, if we show you that up to the camera, you'll be able to see that it's marked out across there what 50 grams is. So this will roughly give you an indication of how much 50 grams is. So if you haven't got scales again, we can still be able to measure this one out. So there's my 100 grams of flour. I'm now going to be putting in there 50 grams of the baking fat. So let me just use, I'm going to use my scales again just to make sure I'm accurately doing this one. But again, if you haven't got scales at home, that's not to worry. You can still do this one without it. Okay. So 50 grams, let's have a look. A bit more in there. Perfect. So that's 50 grams of butter in with 100 grams of flour in the bowl there. Now this is going to make our pastry. But we need to go through a couple of steps beforehand to make this pastry. So let's go through those couple of steps. I'm going to show you what steps are on the board here, and we're going to talk through it as well together. So we've got two steps up here. We've got cutting in and we've got rubbing in. Okay, so cutting in and rubbing in. Okay, anyone want to hazard a guess what cutting in and rubbing in involves? So let's have a look. Who's going to be fastest on this one? Cutting in. Anybody having a guess what cutting in is involving? Who's going to be fast? See YouTube or Talking Girls Grammar Teams? Who is the fastest off the ball there? It is, absolutely. It's just purely for cutting in. That's right. So we're going to be doing these two skills, cutting in and rubbing in, to make our pastry. And they do exactly what they say, okay? We're going to be cutting in, that involves cutting up the butter into the flour. And then we're going to be rubbing in, which involves rubbing the butter into the flour. So we're going to be cutting and we're going to be rubbing to make this beautiful short crust pastry. So let's talk about this in a little bit more detail while we do it. How are we going to cut in? Well, I'm going to use a rounded butter knife. So this is just the sort of butter that you use to spread butter with. Just a rounded, it's a quite blunt knife, this one. So this is a blunt rounded butter knife. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the butter in. So let's do this one together. So I'm just going to cut this one in, and you can see this one on the board as well. I'm just going to move that one there. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the butter and we're just going to cut it up teeny tiny small in the bowl with our knife. How small does it need to be? Good question. So if you're wanting to know how small that is, rabbit poos. Okay, that's what we're looking for. The size of rabbit poos. I'm sure you all eat rabbit poos at home. You don't eat rabbit poos. Okay, so if you're not eating rabbit poos, then I'm going to say you are looking at cutting it up so it's the size of raisins or sultanas or tiny little sweeties. There we go. Just going to chop those up. So it's teeny tiny small. How do I know when that is all chopped up teeny tiny small? Well, I'll tell you how I know, because I'm going to be able to tap my little bowl. Okay, I'm going to tap the little bowl, and I'm going to just move that down there. I'm just going to give my bowl a little tap. Okay, and that way we'll know whether it's there we go, move that one back there. That way we'll know if the big lumps are still there, because they'll just pop to the top. So I'm just going to very gently tap it. We don't want to break your bowls. Okay, just lost a little bit there. But we want to be just chopping that in teeny tiny small. You can see I've got a couple of lumps there still. Just going to chop those ones up as well. Good. We're just chopping that up teeny tiny small. Now, while we're doing this, let me talk you through what we're making. We're making a short crust pastry today. This is a type of pastry that's going to go on top of our pie, a short crust pastry. Now, why is it called a short crust pastry? Well, that's to do with these two processes of cutting in and rubbing in and what they do to the food. And this is where we're going to go into some science in a minute. Okay, so I've done the cutting in. Let's give the bowl a little tap. No big lumps to come up to the top. They're all quite small, I think. Yep, I can see those ones. They're all quite small. Give it a little, no big ones in. They're all quite small. If you can see that one, let me zoom in a bit more. Okay, there we go. So we've got quite small pieces there. The next stage we need to do is we need to now, zoom out a bit, we need to now start rubbing this one in, okay? Now, this is also going to break down the butter so it's teeny tiny small. Not really, really long lengths of butter, but really short lengths of butter for our short crust pastry. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our pinchy fingers, the very ends of our pinchy fingers. So we don't want to be using our hands with this one because the reason is your hands are really hot and we need to use the coolest parts of our fingers. Why is that? What ingredients are in there? Why would we want to use the very ends of our pinchy fingers? Anyone at school or YouTube, doesn't matter. Why would we want to use the very ends of our fingers? Who's going to be fastest off the ball? Is it going to be Tilky? There we go, Tilky, go. Because the butter might melt. Absolutely. And we don't want that's right, two of you got it right. The butter will melt. We don't want the butter to melt at this stage, okay? So, yeah, that's it. Well done. Thank you on YouTube as well, not to melt the butter. So we're going to use the very ends of our pinchy fingers just to get in there, and we're going to sort of lift and tickle, I suppose is the best way of describing it. But we're going to do it really quickly, as if it's red hot, because, without making too much of a mess and losing all our ingredients. But we want to do it really quickly because we don't want to melt the butter. How are we going to know if the butter's melted? Well, what you're going to find is it's going to start to stick to your fingers and the mixture might turn yellow. So if that starts to happen, hold back, stop, okay, and we're going to go back to it, all right? So here we go. We're going to get our fingers in and we're going to lift and tickle this mixture, okay? Let me show you that on the screen. So here we have. Let me just reduce the cameras down and zoom in for you and show you exactly what I'm going to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift and tickle. So I'm just lifting these little bits up and I'm just giving it a little tickle, for a rub with the very ends of my fingers. And as I do this, this butter is going to get even smaller. No more long lengths, just short lengths, and we're going to get really teeny tiny small. And it's just going to get tiny, almost like it disappears. There we go. We're just lifting those up, and each time I'm lifting it up, it's just rubbing it together, and you can just rub it together and just with the ends of your finger. And just, we don't want it to melt, remember, so we're just going to be very quick with this. And obviously it's quite cool out there today, actually, so you don't have too much. Not as cold as it has been, but let's just give that a... Now this might be the start, how you make a crumble. You might have made a crumble this way before. If you wanted to make a crumble, you could do this way. I like to do this way and then add some oats to it. And then put it on top of some frozen fruits in the to make yourself a really nice quick crumble there. Wonderful. It's just crumbling through. Excellent. There we go. We're going to go cranberries. Oh, there we go. Some people are putting cranberries on there, into there. So that's nice. We can use the cranberries, berries in there as well. So if you're different schools are watching this, that's great. I'm just going to crumble this one together. We've got schools all around watching this. We're just going to crumble all this one together. So it's all crumbly. Now you can see what's happening there. That butter is just disappearing. Now let's go into the food science here for you. Let's go into some of this teaching to tell you a little bit why we're doing this and why it's called a short crust pastry. Okay, again, similar sort of thing. If you're not sure, give your bowl a little tap gently. You don't want to break the bowl, but you just want to make sure that you've broken all of that down into tiny little bits so you can't see it. We're kind of hiding the butter. We're just hiding that fat inside the flour. Okay, that's good. I'm happy with that. It's not turned yellow. It's not really sticking to my fingers. It's got quite clean. If you do get a little bit on your fingers, just grab yourself a little bit of flour. Not too much because you don't want to affect the recipe, but you can just rub your fingers together in there. There we go. And we're just going to make it. Now, for all of you at school, let's have a look. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Let me explain to you what's going on here. And this is all about why it's called short crust pastry as well. We are doing a shortening, okay? We're going to do shortening. This process of rubbing in and cutting in is called shortening. So let me explain a little bit more detail on the board here what's going on. Let me just move the camera around. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to do that one. Okay, so we are now going to just explain on the board here what the process of shortening is. Now, we have got butter and flour in there. Now, butter is very, very interesting. It's like a plastic. Okay, and it forms a little waterproof jacket. So it's like a little waterproof jacket that we're going to be putting onto our flour. So we're covering all of those little tiny bits of flour inside the bowl here with little waterproof jackets, and we're just covering it over so it like me, here we go, I've now got a waterproof jacket, and that's going to stop the water getting on top of me. It's like I'm a piece of flour that can't get wet. But why can't it get wet? Well, let's explain why it can't get wet. It's very interesting here. What we've got going on is something with water and flour, because we need to put water into this one in a bit. Some nice ice cold water. And what happens with flour when it gets wet? So let's have a think about this one. We're going to make our flour wet here. And what will happen when flour gets wet? Well, here we have a bowl of just plain flour, and I've got some water here, and I'm going to put it in here, and we're just going to see what happens. Here we go. What's going to happen is, I'm just going to stir that in there. This water is getting in here, and water and flour just going to make it in here. Now, you may have done this at school with newspaper, strips of newspaper, a balloon, water and flour, and you make paper mache, because this water and flour is very, very what? What does water and flour become when you're making paper mache? Anyone want to just tell me? Tell me on the screen there. What does water and flour do when you're making paper mache? What does it do to the paper that you might put around it? That's right. It gets sticky. Absolutely right. So what happens is it gets really, really sticky. So it gets really, really sticky, and you can just about see that that is quite sticky now. Now that stickiness is from something that putting water and flour and mixing it together creates. That water and flour mixingness, okay, creates a new sticky thing, and that sticky thing is like something that you might have at school. Let's have a look. What else do you have that's at school that's sticky? What's that? What's that stuff? That's right. It's glue. Now this is when we put water and flour and you mix it together, you have a gluey stuff. And that glue, well done, Ethan. It's glue. And we are actually going to create a gluey, sticky stuff. And it starts with the same letters. So you've got glue, spelt like that. The gluey, sticky stuff inside flour that's created uses the first bit of that, but it's not actually called glue. It's called gluten. And they both come from the same word, okay? So they both come from the same word, Latin word, originated to mean sticky, okay? So we've got gluten, which is very, very sticky. Now, it's got two properties, actually, because we need it in bread making. We need gluten to create some bubbles in it to make our food rise. And gluten is both stretchy, like this balloon. You can see this purple balloon. So it's very stretchy. It's stretchy. And you can move it around, okay? You like this goo. If you can just have a look on there, we've got some goo, and you can move it into different shapes and mold it back together, back into the original shape it was. And again, it's like, there we go, and it's moved back. So that slime is very much like gluten as well. So that moving it and shaping it like slime you would do, that's called, so it's stretchy elastic, and we can also call it plastic, okay? So we move, like plasticine, you can mold it. Stretchy or elastic, and it's plastic. So it's got two properties, gluten, and it's really, really important for bread making. What's the outside of bread like? What's it like? What's bread like? So what is it? Anyone know? Okay, at school. There we go. Anyone know? Anyone know what? It's a crust, yeah. So on bread, that's it. That's brilliant. So on bread, you have a crust. You have it quite hard. And that's what happens. What happens is gluten. It forms a big structure to your bread, and it's quite hard and tough. And it creates this fluffy area in the middle that creates it. Now, we don't want any of that. We want a crisp, thin pastry, don't we? So we don't want a tough, chewy gluten. So we don't want this to happen. We don't want gluten. We don't want this gluey stuff to do. So to stop gluten from happening, to stop this hard crust on there, which wants something that's crisp and crumbly, we don't want gluten to happen. We don't want this gluten to happen because, like I say, gluten gives you structure, but it makes it hard as well. Okay, so it's a structure, but it does make it quite hard as well. And we don't want that. We want a crumbly pastry, okay, for our Appleberry pies. So what we've done here to stop our flour from getting too wet, to stop that gluten formation, we have done these two processes. So we have done both cutting in and rubbing in, and in the process, we formed these waterproof jackets of butter to go all over. Here we are, this is my waterproof jacket, to go all over the little bits of flour to stop the water getting onto it very much. Okay, so we don't get lots of gluten. It stops the gluten development, or retards or slows down that gluten development, or just makes it less able to happen. So that's why we've done shortening, this process of cutting in, rubbing in, this whole shortened process, and that's to stop gluten development. And this is why it's called a short crust pastry. All right, we're nearly there, everybody. That's nearly there to go as our pastry. The only thing we need to do now is we need to put all of those ingredients together. We need to bring them back together. We've crumbled them, the butter and the flour, into the bowl here. What we've done is we've cut it in and we've rubbed it in so the butter's disappeared. We need to now put this into a dough to roll out, our pastry dough to roll out. So we are going to bind all of this together. We're going to bind all of this together with some ice cold water. A little bit though. We don't want loads in there. We don't want to form that gluten in there. We need to stop the gluten as much as we can with pastry. We don't want that sticky stuff called gluten, like glue, in our pastry. Okay, so we're just going to put a little bit. So I have got a measuring cup glass here of cold water, ice cold water. Now, why do you think we're using ice cold water again? Anyone remember why we're using ice cold water? Why is it ice cold? Anyone, any ideas? I think Ethan's quite quick on YouTube. How about back at school, at the girls at school? Let's have a look who's quickest there. That's right. So the butter doesn't melt. Wonderful. So we're going to make sure that the butter doesn't melt. And again, Dylan, back on YouTube, to stop the butter from melting. So we're going to use ice cold water in here. And I'm going to use a spoon. Now, a bit like we said, we don't want to be getting lots of water in there because we don't want that gluten formation. We want to keep this a short crust pastry. So I'm going to be putting just a couple of tablespoons at a time. I'm not going to add loads in there. I'm not just going to pour it in. So I'm going to put in 1, 2, 3 tablespoons to start with. Then I'm going to use my rounded butter knife and I'm going to stir those 2 or 3 tablespoons of water into, let me zoom in again, into my bowl. So here we have the bowl. Just going to stir in that. So I'm just going to stir it in, just stirring it in with my knife. Okay, let's move the camera down so you can see that. Just going to stir that in there, just so it all comes together there. Okay, here we go, still doing that one. Just stirring that together. So all of you children at home can see, or students at school can see there what we're doing. Now, the next thing is not quite coming together, so gradually again, just going to add in 1, 2 more spoons. And I'm stirring it together. And as I stir it, I'm just going to push it against the side of my bowl as I do it. You see what I'm doing there? Just going to pushing it against the side of the bowl and stirring it around. And what's going to start to happen is it's going to come together into a lovely short crust pastry dough, which we'll be able to roll out shortly. So I'm just going to roll that one together there. It's just coming in together, nearly there. I'm just going to put last couple of tablespoons of water. 1, 2 tablespoons there. Just going to squeeze that against the side of the bowl here so it comes together into a beautiful short crust pastry, light and fluffy. And then when you cook this pastry, it's going to be a delicate and crumbly pastry. Okay, it should just start to come together. It's nearly there. I might just put one more. Just going to put one more in there. I think that'll do me. Yes. So that is now. Just keep stirring it, and hopefully you've got a similar sort of thing on yours there. Now, if you're at school, if you want to share your camera to show, if you're unsure about what it looks like, happy to do that one so you can show it on your screen. Hopefully back on YouTube, you're watching this, you can see yours is now coming together into a dough ball in the middle there. You see that's come into a lovely dough ball into the middle now. It's just come away from the sides of the bowl. And actually, I've got a clean bowl there in the middle. Let's have a look. I'm just looking here on Teams for my, school class. Yep, that looks perfect. Well done. Well done. Thumbs up to you. The class are just showing me photos of where they're up to, their pastry there. That's good. Wonderful. And again, hopefully on YouTube, you're at a very similar stage now. And it should look just like number 5 on the picture here. On the board where it's all come together just as it should have done there into a dough using the rounded knife there. Okay, and we're just going to leave that now. So I've got my dough. I'll just show you my dough as well. It's just come together into a ball there, and I'm just going to, let me just show you that on the screen there. You can just about see. There we go. There's my ball of dough in the middle there. Now I'm going to leave that to rest for a minute because we've been working it into a dough, and I just want to leave that to rest. I don't want lots of stretchy gluten in there, obviously, and I don't want it to be tough, and I don't want it to be a lovely crumbly pastry. So I'm just going to leave that now just to give itself a little rest while we get on to the next part. And that should be exactly halfway. Oh, look at that. Perfect. Exactly halfway through our lesson now. Wonderful. So we've now made a short crust pastry for the first time. And hopefully you've all got to that stage now. We're just going to leave that ball of dough to rest on the side. If you can, you might want to put it in the fridge. You can do just to chill down that butter that's in there as well. That would be wonderful. Just maybe put a piece of film or greaseproof paper over the top and just put that one into the fridge for a few moments while we carry on with the rest of the Appleberry pie. Okay, so next thing, we're now going to move on to the apple and berry part. So if you have a look at number 7 down here, this is what we're going to aim for. Number 7, we're going to make, you see on the board there, number 7, we're going to slice and scoop out the cooking apples, and we're going to get all the fresh into a little bowl, and then we're going to do the berries as well and move on from there. So what do we need to do for that one? Well, I've got another little bowl over here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get our big apples. So we've got big apples. These are our cooking apples. Okay. Can't hear. Let me just see if I can turn that one up a bit. Hopefully that's a little better for you there back at school. Okay, so we've now got our cooking apple here, and we need to work out how we're going to get to the stage where we can scoop out the centers, just like step number 7 there. All right, let me show you on the board what we're going to do. So here it is my apple, and we're going to cut this up together. Let me just show you on the other camera there. Hopefully you can see that. So yes, we've got the apple there. Moving that out of the way. And we're now going to cut this apple up together. Oops. There we go. Setting up cameras there for school. Right, so we've got the apple there, and we're going to cut this apple up. So what we're going to use is that sharp paring knife. You see that one there? And what we're going to do is we're going to cut through the middle of our apples. Now to do this one, we're going to hold the apple by the core, 2 ends of the core, the stalk, and the base of the apple. We're going to hold that with our thumb and forefinger. You can see that one on the camera there with our thumb and forefinger. And as we do that, we're going to create a shape. Now this is the first of our cuts here. And that shape is what we call a, see if anyone knows there, that shape. We're going to put the knife through the middle of it, of that shape to cut. What is that shape called? What are we going to be creating? Does anyone know the name of that cut? Let's see who can be quickest off the mark here. Is it going to be YouTube? Is it going to be the school? Let's have a look. Who knows the name of that cut? What are we going to be doing? What's the name of the cut we use when we're making a shape like that with our hands? What does that look like? This is a train going through the middle of it, which we're going to cut down. Is it, it could be like, it looks a bit like a cup, yeah. If this were a train going through the middle of this to cut down, what might this be that people might walk over? Like a tunnel, an arch, you're ever so close. Go on, anyone else have any ideas? We've got tunnel, we've got it, bridge. So this is what we call our bridge cut. And what it means is you're going to hold your food by your thumb and forefinger, create a bridge, and that will enable your knife to go through the middle and not chop your fingers when you're going down. And this is what we call our bridge hold when we're cutting, okay? So we're going to do that one with our apple now. So we're going to be putting the apple there. We create a bridge, and that gap in the middle, that bridge there, so we're going to put our knife through and we're going to slice down all the way to the bottom. Okay, this is our bridge. Now, if you're feeling a little bit worried by this and it's the first time you've used a sharp knife, then you can create a bridge using one of these. This is a three-pronged bridge, otherwise known as a fork. And you can make your own bridge. It's got 3 prongs on there, and you can put the fork into there. And can you see there? You've now got 3 bridges to cut through. There we go. Can you see that? So what you can do then is you can put your knife through the middle of that and cut all the way down if you want to. So we're cutting down there. So you can either use a fork if you feel safe to cut down, or you can use your hand and create a bridge. And this is actually known as the bridge cut. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to cut down the middle. So I'm holding on to the stalky end, okay, round by the corners, and I'm going to create the bridge, and I'm going to cut through. So let me just show you all that now on the board. And this is going to be our first cut for today. Okay, so I'm going to put that through there, and I'm going to cut straight down to the middle for you. Okay, hopefully you've all done that. And I've just gone straight down to the middle. So I went through the middle of my bridge, through there, and I've just cut straight down the middle. Now, because all of you at home today are star bakers, okay, you are all star bakers. Therefore, what we have here, prepared earlier, we have stars. Look at that. You're all stars. We've got little star bakers, stars in the middle. Okay. Now, these are going to form the base of our apple pie. We're going to bake apple pies inside apples today. So this is going to form the base of our apple pies. Now, I said a little trick here. We're going to be cooking, when you cook these ones, because you're going to be cooking them like that, this is going to be the base of your pie. You can put these in you can put these in cake tins to hold them upright. You can put them in Yorkshire pudding tins to put them upright, both of which work really, really well. Or disposable takeaway tins that you're reusing, which would be great because we don't want to be throwing things away. Or coming back to our tuna tin, look at that. Cook perfect, stand up perfectly in a tuna tin, and then we can put that onto a baking tray and put that into the oven as well. So let's get back to our 2 apple slices. We now need to get the middles of them so that they look like number 7 on our board here. We're going to scoop out this side. So how do we do that? Well, we're not going to use a knife now. We're going to put the knife down safely at the back of our board. We're going to use a spoon, but we're going to hold the spoon completely wrong. Instead of holding the spoon like that, we're going to be putting our thumb inside the center of our spoon like that, and we're going to act like a spade. And we're going to twist and pull with my thumb inside, just there, can you see that? And inside there, and we're going to twist it around there. So here goes, thumb inside, my thumb is inside the spoon, and I'm going to just now, I'm going to do little twists on the top. I'm not digging down deep. I'm just doing little twists on the top there. And as I do it, the little bits of apple are falling out. So little twists, not going close to the outside. Try and leave a gap all the way around the outside because it's going to form our pie. So try and leave a gap around the outside. And we're just going to do little twists all the way round. All the way round it goes. There we go. And we're going to scoop out the centre of our apples. Now we'll do this one together. And we're just going to scooping out. You see I'm scooping out the apple? Do you need to use both sides of the apple? It would be great, then you've got 2 pies. You'll have enough pastry to be able to do 2 of these pies. So if you can scoop them out both, that would be great. And each time, all I'm doing is I'm just little twists. And then as you do that one, the bits of apple will just fall out. So little twists. Now you are saving these bits of apple. So don't throw these bits of apple away. We're going to reuse these bits for our sweet and sour fillings. Okay, so just little bits. And each time we're going to save these little bits. We're going to put them in a bowl. And we're going to mix up our bowl to make a beautiful pink centre, berry centre to our pies. So I'm just going to carry on doing this one with you. Hopefully you've got your large apples there, or cooking apples if you've got those ones in there. And you're just scooping out the insides of yours too at the same time that I'm doing mine. Now, don't be worried if you go all the way through. Some people are saying, well, I've gone all the way through. That's okay, because the good thing is you've got a spare other half. Okay, so you can use the spare other half, and we're just going to scoop that one down, all those little bits out. There we go. And we're just scooping all those little bits out, little bits at a time, okay, until we've got the whole of the centre of the apple scooped out. Okay, so we're just scooping all of those tiny little bits of apple out. There we go, little bits at a time until it looks something like that. Can you all see that on the camera? Hopefully yours are looking like that. So if you're watching this on YouTube around the world, you can see that. If you're watching this at school, you can see that what we've got here is we've got a lovely scooped out apple there. There we go, scooped out apple just there in the centre. Sorry, my son just taking the dog out for a little walk around. There we go. So scooped out centres. You can all see that one in there. That's what we're looking for. And what you'll end up with is you're going to end up with a bowl full of little bits. And we're going to mix those bits up to create the centre of our pie. Now I'm just going to grab the bowl. It's just on the other side there. There we go. Here we go. I'm going to go back and get a larger one so you can all see. What I've done there is I've just put the little bits of apple that we came from the centre. Now you'll notice that something is happening to those little bits of apple. They're starting to turn a brown colour. Don't worry about that, okay? This is almost like it's turning rusty, and that's exactly the sort of process that's going on here. What's happening is we've cut open the apple, and inside the apple, what starts to happen is the air is reacting with this one. Okay, and it's something really strange is happening with the enzymes, all the little bits that are inside the apple. We got a browning. It's all browning. In fact, the enzymes that work to make with the air to make this browning is something we call enzymic browning, which we touch on it when we go to GCSE. So, but you've already learned one GCSE term today, and that's shortening. Which is great. And the reason we do this particular recipe is we want to lead your skills up all the way up to GCSE. So one of the big high skill things at GCSE is making pastries. So you've done that. And this one's, it was a short crust pastry you're making today. But one of the other things we talk about, food science wise, is why this goes brown, why the enzymes reacting with the air and working with the air. Why do they go brown? And this enzymic browning. Can you see that they've gone brown? So there's what it was. Even that's starting to go brown now as well. Now, this browning is called oxidation. Okay, so we've got an oxidation going on, process going on there, a bit like rust happens, and that metal oxidizes. And we've got so we got that oxygen there. It's like a rusting. So anyway, we'll talk about the detail of that when you get to GCSE. We don't mind that going brown because I'm going to turn it pink in a minute. But if you wanted to stop apples and fruit from going brown, you want to be putting a little bit of lemon juice in there. We'll cover them with a little bit of lemon juice or water, and that would stop them going brown. But don't worry for this recipe. That's fine. We can get them. This enzymic browning is fine for this one. Okay, because we're going to turn them all pink in a moment anyway. All right, so we've got down to step number 7 of the 10, and we are now going to be working on the lovely pink filling that we're going to do there. We've got some of our apple. We're going to be putting more apple, and we're going to be putting the berries into this. So hopefully you've got another apple ready to go now, and we should be nearly ready now to go with the other apple. What we're going to do with this other apple is we're going to finally chop it up. So I'm going to show you some more cutting again. So we're going to go back to your cutting skills. Just revisit those cutting skills. I'm going to cut those up, and we're going to also do the berries in a minute as well. So just put those to the side while I come and talk you through that. So here is my little eating apple, my nice sweet eating apple. Now you can do 2 things. This one, if you want to, we can peel it first. If you want to, you can use a peeler to peel it. I'm going to keep all that wonderful skin on there because there's some good stuff in that skin. Some what we call fibre. Okay, so we're going to use I'm going to keep mine on now. I'm going to show you how to cut up this apple for you now. So let's do this together. Again, we're going to keep it. We're going to do it methodically. We're going to do it together. We don't want any cut fingers or anyone hurting themselves. So we'll show you how to do that one with the knife. Okay, so here we go. Let's go move the cameras down, and you can see that there's my hollowed out apple. I'm just going to put that to the side for a minute, and we're now back to the apple. I'll zoom in there for you so you can see exactly what we're doing there. Okay, so we've got our apple there in the middle, and we need to chop this up really, really finely. Okay, so what are we going to do that one? Well, I'm going to make what's this called again? Go on, who's quickest off the mark here? Who can do this the quickest off the mark? What sort of cut am I going to start with? Yes, that's right. It's a bridge. It's a bridge. It's a bridge. It's a bridge. We're going to be starting with a bridge. Well done, everybody. Yeah, well done, Ethan, online and on YouTube as well. We're going to be going with a bridge. Well done. And you girls at school as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a bridge. Now this time, rather than holding it by the core side with the stalky parts, I'm going to hold it around the middle, but I'm still going to use that bridge with the thumb and forefinger. And when I do the bridge, I can then cut. So I'm going to cut down either side. Let me show you on the camera there. I'm going to cut down either side of the stalk, one side and the other, okay, of the stalk. So 2 cuts instead of 1 this time. Now, again, if you're unsure and you're a bit about this, you can always use a fork to go into the middle, and you can cut down either side of the fork if you want. If that's easier for you. I'm going to try it with a bridge. So I'm going to go cut down one side, almost like railway track. So I'm going to cut down one side all the way to the bottom. Then I'm going to cut down the other side of the stalk all the way to the bottom. Okay, now if I show that on the camera, what you can see has happened is I've now got it into 3 pieces with the stalk in the middle. There we go. Brilliant. I'm going to leave that stalk just down there for a minute. And now I've got these 2 pieces here. Can you all see that? So we've got 3 pieces now. What do we need to do now? Well, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get the stalky middle piece, and I'm going to form a bridge again. So bridge, and I'm going to cut down either side of the stalk again. 1, 2. So I've now split that into 3, and you'll see there is my core. Core, blimey. Let's take that one out. I'm going to take that one away. I'm going to throw that away. We don't need that part. But what you can use is you can use that for compost, or put it in a compostable bin. So you can use that in your kitchen compost if you're using that, if you're doing that for your gardens. Okay, so that is there. I'm going to do the same now for the 2 other halves. So bridge, 2 lines through. And you can see there, I've now got those lined up. I'm going to do the same again. Bridge, thumb and forefinger wide apart, safely cut through the middle. There we go. Lots of different lines of fruit there. Okay. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to chop them the other way. Now this is a different cut. This is not the bridge. This is called something different altogether. So let me just come back to me. Okay, let me just talk to you about the next cut we're going to use. The next cut is not a bridge, but we're going to be putting our thumbs right back. You can see what I'm doing there. Just do this with me. Thumbs right back, fingers over the top, just like that. Hopefully you're all doing that one with me. And that's really important that your thumb is away. And this is called a claw. Okay, claw. we're going to be putting the blunt side of our sharp knife against our claw, and we're going to cut away. Cut away. So our sharp side will never come near our knuckles, but the blunt side just cuts away. The blunt side might touch the end of our knuckles, just like that. Now this is really important to have your thumb stuck in, because if you left your thumb out, when you cut away, you cut the end of your thumb off. So, very important. Thumb right back, fingers over the top, and we're going to use this one and we're going to cut away. Now again, if you're unsure about that, it's the first time, you've got this claw as well. Look, it's a claw as well. So you can see there's the claw like your knuckles, and you can use that to cut away from it. So you can see that we're just cutting away from it as well. So you can cut away from it that way, or you can use thumb right back, finger over the top, and you can cut away that way. I'm going to use a claw. So we've done the bridge today, and now we're doing the claw. But please, 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 thumbs right back, fingers top. Then you can cut. Okay, let me show you on the board what we're doing there. Zoom in again. Here we go. So the first of our brick claws, I put my thumb right back, finger over the top, and now resting it on top of my food, I'm going to just cut away. Cutting away. Cutting away. Let's move all those bits away. Cutting away. There we go. So I've cut up those. We do the same again. Thumb right back, fingers over the top, cut away. Cut away, cut away, cut away. And we're just going to keep on doing this one. Thumbs right back, cut away. And for each of our slices, okay, and we're just cutting these up. Keep cutting them. Don't try and be fast on this one. It's not about being fast. It's about being safe. Okay, now, these are certain sort of cuts. Now, this is a six-sided cuboid. Can you see that one? That's a six-sided cuboid. Sometimes you play games with a six-sided cuboid when it's got dots all over it. What shape? Does that look like? What does it look like? If it's a six-sided cuboid, which would have dots all over it, and you play a game with it, what would it be? That's, oh, well done, Professional Garen on YouTube straight away. It's a dice. So this is actually a dice cut. So we can actually call this one a dice cut. You're very first. Well done on back at school as well. Perfect. So let's have a look at that one in a bit more detail. So we've got a dice cut. Now, this is your first cut. This is the first time you cut and you've just made your first dice. You can obviously make them. There we go. Ethan as well. That is a dice. Well done. So what you've got is here is you've got a dice cut. Now, when we do this at GCSE, we make lots of different size dices, and you can get some teeny tiny little dices, and they come different names, which we'll talk about again when we get to, in fact, we start doing it in year 9. And that's Macédoine or Brunoise cuts, and they're teeny tiny ones. They're much smaller than this one, and we look to try and make them smaller. So if you've made really small dices, perfect. You've done a key stage 4 or a late key stage 3 cuts. Okay, and we'll talk about what those are. So we can do that one, and we can make them teeny tiny. So I'm just showing. Here we are. Look, we've got some teeny tiny ones, probably a lot smaller than the ones, some teeny tiny ones, a lot smaller necessarily than the ones we've done today. But today was just about teaching you the cuts. But you can see there, that's a teeny tiny small one. And also you can get better at shaping them so that they're more accurate. So they're actually, and as you get better at it, you'll end up with your dice looking a little bit more like a dice and being a little bit more accurate in your chopping skills. And you can work on that one with the grown-up close to hand. You can work on making sure that yours are as accurate as you can for the inside of your pies. But for today, it's more about the pastry and learning our cutting skills. So don't worry about that. All right, so what I've got now is I'm going to put those bits of apple in. So there's my bowl of apple. I'm going to be putting the diced up apple in with that. So here we go. There's my diced. Let me just put that one in there so you can see. There's my diced apple going into there with my cooking apple, and I'm just going to mix all of that up. with my hands. That's fine. Nothing going to melt in there. So that's going to be worried. I'm going to put all those into there and mix them all up. Back, and we're going to be putting those, stuffing those back into our apples. Here's our apple, looking very brown now. See all that browning going on in there? That's getting very brown there, but don't worry because it's going to turn pink. So we're now going to just put all of the bits of apple that we chopped up into there. I'm just going to put the rest of my chopped up apple into there. So we've got all of that in there, all those lovely diced bits of apple going in with the cooking apple. So we've got eating apple diced up in with the cooking apple. I'm just going to say put all of mine in there. The next thing we need to work on is, let me think, it's an appleberry pie. So if it's an appleberry pie, what are we missing in our appleberry pie? Anybody? Say YouTube or Talkie Tales Grammar, what are we missing on this one in our appleberry pies? Someone must know. The berries. Yes, of course. We're missing the berries. Professional Garen, Ethan, girls back at school. We're missing the berries, of course. So let's get on with the berries. And we say you can choose between the sorts of berries that you want to do with this one. You can do frozen berries. You can do fresh berries. You can do canned berries. They're still going to have all the wonderful vitamins and minerals that you require. And they're still going to be one of your 5 a day in there one. Okay, so you work on what you're going to do. I'm just going to clear my work surface down. So I've currently got my diced apple, eating apple with my cooking apple, and I'm going to get my berries in there now. All right, so let's do our berries now. I love this little bit of berries. What you can do is we need to get the berry. Here is my strawberry. We're going to do something called hulling. Now, what does hulling mean? Well, you'll notice that on your strawberry, you have got a lovely green end. Now, you're not going to have this problem if you've used frozen fruit or if you've used canned fruits, but you have if you use fresh fruit. So we need to get rid of it. We're not going to eat the green part. So if you've got one of those, grab yourself a straw. I've got myself a metal straw here. So it's a reusable straw, not plastic straws. We're going to be using the metal one, and we're just going to stick that straw through the center of our strawberry, and what's going to happen is that all the leaves are going to come straight off. Can you see that one? The strawberry, what's happened is I pushed the straw all the way through. I'm going to take it all the way out the other side. And then the stalky part comes straight off. There we are, our whole strawberry. That is taking all of that greeny part off, all of the stalk of the strawberry. A nice quick little one there, using a straw for a strawberry. How cool is that? So we're using a straw on a strawberry, and you can see all the way through that one. There we go. I can see all the way through that strawberry. There we go. You can see you all through that one. So a strawberry. Now, obviously, strawberries are grown on straw. That's why they're called strawberries. But I like to think it's because you can hull them with a straw. So there we go. I'm going to try to do the rest same with the rest of them. Let's grab the bowl of waste so I can keep myself the whole area clean. So I've got my one strawberry. Let's do the same. I'm going to just move the camera down so you can see what I'm doing there. Let's do some more magic again then. So we have got, zoom in there. We've got a bit of strawberry there. Let's move that one off again. We've got strawberry. There's my strawberry. There's my straw. Here we go. Let's do this again. I'm going to just ease it through. Ease my straw through. And then I'm going to push it out the other end. And there we have the strawberry hulled. Take that waste off, and you have now got, push that all the way through. Feed it all the way through. There we go. And you can see all the way through the strawberry. There we go. One whole strawberry. Now we're going to use a few of these strawberries. How many strawberries should you be using? I would say a couple of strawberries would be good. I'm going to just add another one. I'm going to do it because I love doing this one. I think it's a bit of amazing stuff with the strawberry there. So I'm just going to do that again. I'm going to push that through. Going to push it all the way through. So all of those green leaves come off. There we go. And there we have it again. Can you see all the way through there? You can see all the way through the other side. Okay, so I've got my strawberries there on the table. ready to go. All hulled with my straw. There's my straw, my reusable metal straw. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to chop this up. Now I can use the butter knife for this one. I'm going to go back to a butter knife because you don't need to use a sharp knife for this one. You'll be absolutely fine to use a butter knife. So here we go. With the butter knife, what I'm going to do with this one is I'm now going to, let's move that off to the side a minute. I'm now going to chop this one through. So we'll chop it in half using a bridge. Okay. Lay those ones flat. Again, bridge cut. Then I'm going to do it again with a bridge. There we go. All nicely lined up. And now, after I've done a bridge, going to do a bit more bridging. So they're long and thin. There we go. Just like we did with the apple. There we go. So when they're long and thin, we can go onto the claw. So I'm just practicing my bridge and claw here now. And get a bit faster with these ones. And now I'm going to go with the claw. So thumb right back, fingers over the top, and I'm going to just slice off in the opposite way. And this is our dice, isn't it? Remember how we were doing before? I'm going to try and make this into a little square dice. Perfect. I'm going to try and be clever here. I'm going to try and do 3 at the same time. Let's see if we can do 3 at the same time. There we go. It's not quite worked. But we're just chopping these up teeny tiny small. In they go. Strawberries in there. Now you can do, say, blueberries, summer fruits, mixed fruits, canned fruits, all of those sort of things. And we're going to mix those in with our bowl there. So in they go with our apples. So we have now got apples and berries all in the same pot. There we go. So we're going to stir all of those in together. Perfect. Mix them all in with your hands. Okay, so we've now got our berry mix into the middle there. What we're going to do now is we're going to go with the corn flour. So in goes the corn flour. I'm going to put in there a teaspoon of corn flour. So let's get a small spoon there. So a small spoon there. Here's my corn flour. That's that squeaky flour. A little bit of corn flour in there. In it goes. Stir that through. It's going to make a lovely sauce for the centre of our pie. In that goes. Stir that through, stir it through, stir it through. Just doing a flat bowl here so you can see what I'm doing. And then in with that, we're going to put our vanilla. And again, we're going to be using our little bit of vanilla here. Beautiful, dark vanilla. And you can see all of the, excuse that one. Let me just show you that beautiful little pod. What I'm using, little pod vanilla paste. And can you see all of that beautiful vanilla in there? You might be able to see all the seeds in there. Let's show it up to the camera so you can see that properly. Look at that. That is an amazing paste, vanilla paste made with real Madagascan vanilla. There we go. We're going to stir all that back up there. You can actually see the seeds in the bowl here now. How good is that? I mean, if you love vanilla, you can add a little bit more into that as well if you really wanted. And the smell, oh, I could tell you, it's just absolutely sublime, the smell here of vanilla, strawberry, apple. It just smells absolutely delicious. Hopefully yours is smelling nice as well at home here. That is smelling wonderful. Really, really lovely. Okay. Now, the next stage, we have got to stuff our apple with our appleberry mix. Okay, so we're going to do that next. We're going to get our appleberry mix. It smells so good. Thank you, Karen. It smells so good on YouTube there. It smells so good. The vanilla on its own tastes a bit horrible. Right. Wow. It's each their own, but it does smell good. You see what I'm doing there? I've used the old tuna tin, recycled an old tuna tin. reuse that, just washed up tuna tin. And I'm using that as my little stand here for you. And I'm just going to fill that up with 2 types of apple, vanilla, cornflour, and strawberry mix into the middle of my pie there. And that's just going into the top there. Oh, this looks wonderful. This is going to taste divine. Trust me on this one. It's going to be really yummy when we do this one. Okay, that is my pie ready to go, with the exception of a pie crust. So we need to work now on getting you a lovely pie crust on there. So that is what we're going to do next. We're going to come back to our pastry. So let's just move that to the side for a minute. Okay, back to me. There we go. You'll notice now on the board here, we are now up to nearly the final stage, number 9. And that's good because we're nearly there for cooking time, and that's nearly a whole 2 hours done. So let's go back to the pastry for the final piece. Now we have got your pastry on here. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put a sprinkling of flour onto my work surface. Not too much, just a little sprinkling of flour there on my work surface. Don't get it all over the kitchen. I'll get a nightmare from you, all the parents saying, whoa, we've got flour everywhere. So just a little bit of sprinkling of flour, just a tiny little bit of flour on the top. Now with my flour, I'm going to then put my pastry. There's my pastry, it's been resting. Just going to put that onto the top. Here we go. So I'm just going to roll that into it. Now we don't want to overhandle it. Remember, your hands are hot. And what will happen is, with your hands being hot, it will end up melting the butter. So don't let that do it. Let me show you what I've got. Let me show you what it looks like. Here we go. On the board there. So you can all see. There's my pastry there for you. Let me just show you. There we go. You can see that pastry on there as it is at the moment. It's perfect. So we got our pastry on there, and we're now going to roll that one out. So let me just grab my rolling pin, which is, and again, don't worry if you haven't got a rolling pin. You can use, there it is. So you can use a rolling pin, or you can use, say, something that you might have at home, like an old cordial bottle. You can use to roll it out. Just be careful if it's glass. And we're just going to roll it out. Now, how thin do we need to roll it? We'll roll it in one direction. And we're just going to roll it so it's about as thin. Just going to flip it over there. About as thin as a pound coin, maybe a little bit thinner. Now, if it sticks to your rolling pin, just a little bit of flour on your rolling pin as well, or whatever you're using to roll it out with will be perfect. So we can just roll that, put the rolling pin flour on the rolling pin. Just roll that one out. Just turning it around each time I do it. There we go. There we go. Just roll that one out. So it should be about as thick as a pound coin. You can see that on the camera there. That's what we're looking for. Now, again, tuna tins or biscuit cutters. So I've got both there. You can use either. And we're just going to cut them. Now I'm going to use the flat side there. Sorry, the plate side rather than the fluted side. You can see it's got 2 sides of cutters on this one. I'm going to use straight side rather on that one rather than the fluted. Let's cut this one. Or I can use a tuna tin. You'll see they're identical size. Absolutely spot on size. So you can use either if you haven't got those at home. I'm just going to cut them out. The other good thing is you'll notice that these are the same size as the tops of your pies. Perfect. So let's cut these ones out. I'll use one for one on the other, and we'll cut them out. Here we go. You can see I've got a circle there. I'll use my tuna tin as well. You can see it works just as well with a recycled tuna tin as it does with that. And we'll just put those to the side for a minute. And they are our pastry toppings. Now, if they don't quite fit your apple, maybe your apple's slightly bigger than that, you can just give them another roll if you want to, one way and the other, just once more, just so they fit completely. If you want to make them bigger, just do that, okay? And then you'll bring back your pie. I'm going to place the pie topping. There we go. I'm going to place the pie topping over the top of our pie. And we're just going to ease that down the sides with our fingers, just so it covers all the apple there. We're just going to ease that all the way round our pies just like so. You should now have a perfect pie topping for your beautiful appleberry pie baked inside of apple. Now, what can you do from here? Well, what you can do is, if you want to, you can get really fancy pants with it. And what you can do with some of your spare pastry, you could use some other shaped cutters. So you could do a star. I've got a star here. I've got some hearts. So I can use some little cutters. You might want to just cut out some leaves if you want to. And you can put those on the top. If you're going to do that, just need to go back to your water that you had from earlier. Just get your fingers on. And I'm just going to get that wet. Remember, what does it happen when flour gets wet? What happens when flour gets wet? Can you remember? It gets very... Who's going to be first off the ball with this one? Flour gets wet, it gets very... Who's it going to be? School or school? Yep, school's got it. It gets very sticky. So you can stick some decorations onto your pie. There we go. You can stick some decorations onto your pie if you want to. There we go. So we've now got our pie. I've done a star on mine because you are all star bakers today. There we go. I've got a little star on my pie there, ready for you. Now, you could do some cut leaves out. You could have an apple with a pie crust, so it actually looks as though it's got little leaves on the top. That would be fun. You can use the back of a fork to do some nice little patterns. You might want to do some little patterning around the outside. Maybe just a nice little pattern around the outside there if you wanted to. Could do. Now I'm just going to do that. You can get really creative here about how we're going to do it. There we go. There's my pie. Star baker pie. Well done. Well done, well done, well done. There we go. You see that from the screen. I'm just going to move it down now. What do we need to do now? The pie. Let me get back to me. Okay, so the pie at the moment looks absolutely wonderful. You can see there. There it is, our star baker pie. Beautiful pie. Now we're going to do a couple of other things before we do it. We're going to need to make some ventilation holes because we got lots of lovely moist stuff in there. We got the strawberries, we've got the apples on there, so we need to make some little ventilation holes. So back to your straw if you've got one, or you can just make it with a skewer or the end of a knife. We're going to make some holes in there. So I'm just going to poke that through to make a little hole in there for my pie to let all of those steam out. You can do a couple of little holes on there if you want to. You can see what I've done just here. You might see I've made 4 holes in that one. 4 holes in a diamond shape there. On this one, I've just made one big one in the middle. Little pie vent, they call that. So we've made that on the top. And the final thing before we get this in the oven, now we need to be thinking about your ovens. So your ovens need to be on at 190. So if you can see that up there, 190 gas mark 5. So if you'd like to just switch your ovens on, 190 gas mark 5. I'm going to go do that now. Let me just come over here to my kitchen. So let's do that one, 190. Gas mark 5. So my oven's on preheated. And while we're waiting for that to preheat, there we go. While we're waiting for my oven to preheat, we're going to do what we call a glaze on the pastry. Now, what's a glaze do? We've already made it look fancy and pretty and really decorative using all the pastry. You can see that. But what would be really great is if we can make the colour really nice, stand out when it's in the oven. So what we're going to do is going to give it a shiny, like a varnish on the top, give it a shiny finish. So to do that, we're going to brush it with either some egg replacement, some milk or some milk alternative, and we're just going to brush it over the top. So you can use whatever you want on that one. You can use, say, egg replacement. So we've got some eggs here, but if you didn't want to use eggs, you could use an egg replacement. So say if you're going dairy free, so we've got some egg replacement up here. There we go. So we got some egg replacement here. You can use that and brush it onto the top. Do you remember we talked about a pastry brush? If you haven't got a pastry brush, you can use it just a clean or unused brush. That's it, to make it golden brown, Ethan. That's right, an egg wash. Well done. So I'm going to do the same. You can do that, say, either with an egg substitute or with eggs yourself. If you've got eggs and you can eat eggs and you want to, that's fine. Or if you don't want to use egg, you can use milk or a milk alternative. So we've got traditional dairy milk, or we've got some oat alternative there. That would work fine as well. And we're just going to brush that on the top. So guess what? It's my old friend, the tuna tin. I'm going to pour a little bit into there. So we've got some dairy-free milk here. There we go. I'm just going to put some of that in there. I'm going to use my paintbrush, and I'm just going to paint on top of my my lovely looking pie here. Here we go. I'm just going to show you so you can see down there. Just going to paint that over the top while we wait for our oven to preheat. There we go. Just going to paint some of that on there. Wonderful. Just going to give it a lovely glaze on the top. Just over the side there. Excellent. And this is ready to go in the oven. What I'm going to do with this is I'm going to put this onto a tray along with my other one. I'm going to put that onto a tray, and I'm going to try it. Now, you can either do that, or you can put it into a cupcake case to hold it straight, or you can put it into a muffin case to hold it straight. What we want to try and do is make sure that the pie stays upright through this cooking, okay? So you want to make sure the pie stays upright. So you can either do it in that way, like I've found is a really great way, but you can just use a cupcake case, cupcake tins, you can use muffin tins, you can use Yorkshire pudding tins, whatever you fancy to hold it upright. Now, how long are we going to cook it for? Well, we're going to cook it until it is golden brown, bake until golden brown. How long is that? Well, I've said about 20 minutes to half an hour would be really good for this one, on that one. But you've got different size apples, and you've all been using slightly different size apples, and you've all cut slightly different amounts, and your pastries are all different thicknesses as well. So I would be watching that after 10 minutes. And if it starts to go golden brown all over, and you think it's ready, and what you can do is you can just take your tin out and just see if that got a lovely crisp golden brown pastry. So just keep checking it after 10 minutes, up to about 20 minutes, half an hour at the very most. Don't do anything over half an hour, otherwise it's going to be burnt to a crisp. Okay, so you want to be starting to do that one. Now let's just have a look. How long have we got left of the lesson? We've got about 15 minutes left of the lesson, so you can get this one in. Mine's probably going to take about 15 minutes to 20 minutes, so that's going to take me up to the end. I'm going to get that one into the oven now. Now, when you're putting things in and out of the oven, what do you have to remember? Of course, something for the hands. What do we need to put on the hands? Come on, nice and easy, bit of food safety here. What are we going to put on the hands? Who's going to be cookies? Is it going to be Talkie Girls Grammar School? Is it going to be YouTube? And I think, but spot on the same time there, both YouTube and it there. We've got Dylan came in on YouTube, and the girls came in on Talkie Girls Grammar School at the same time there. Oven gloves. Make sure you got some oven gloves on. Make sure somebody's helping you get it in and out of the oven. Okay, so remember oven safety on there. Oven doors can be as hot as actually the oven itself, so please be careful when you're moving things in and out of the oven. I'm going to get this into the oven. I'm going to take some beautiful photos when they come back. I'd love to see what you've done. I'd love to see the photographs of your Appleberry pies as well, and see how they've turned out for you today as well. Right, so 15 minutes left of the lesson. Why do we need to have 15 minutes left of the lesson? Well, it's one of those ones that I think is really, really important. So here we go with the next slide on the presentation up here. And as you can see, it's washing up and cleaning up. Okay, now we've had a lot of fun. Hopefully you've had a lot of fun with that, making it with the strawberries and the apples, and you've learned some cutting skills there. And you've learned a little bit about what shortening was, and a little bit about gluten, all that stuff there. But it's now time to tidy up, ready for your next lessons for today, or tidy up and just making sure your kitchen area is clean for your folks. Okay, so collect all the equipment together. You need to take it and wash it up. Now, really important when we're doing this, we're using hot soapy water. Okay, a nice clean hot soapy water. If you weren't going to have a bath in your sink, then don't put your equipment in it. It needs to be lovely, clean, soapy, hot water, okay, to be able to properly clean these things up. So make sure you've done that. If you've got a sink, put a plug in it, fill it up with hot soapy water as much as you can, as hot as you can rather. If you've got a bowl, put the bowl in and then fill it out with hot soapy water. Things for washing up. Can you make sure that the first thing you wash up is your knife? Take that over carefully, holding that, not anything else. Go wash that up first. Then when you're doing that, don't let go of your knife into the bowl, otherwise you won't be able to see it. Brush it away with a brush if you can, then put it at the back where you're going to dry it. So just a reminder on knife safety there, to get that one done first. Then start washing up the other things. So you've got all the other equipment here. I'm just looking around. We've got some butter knives, we've got forks, we've got peelers if you've used that one, and then you can start going into larger things like your bowls that you were using as well. So get them all washed up. Be careful not to stack your bowls when you're washing up, because you don't want them to fall off either. So carefully washing up everything so it is neat, tidy and beautiful in your kitchen. Okay, very, very important when you do that one. Drying up and cleaning up as much as possible, but remember, you don't use a tea towel to dry the sharpest knives up, because you could cut yourself. So just let those ones drip right at the back. But get them on. Some of you might even be just using a dishwasher. Cheating, I think. But make sure you clean down. Now, when you are cleaning down your work surface afterwards, do not put water on your work surface, all right? Why are you not putting water on your work surface? Well, you've got flour on your work surface. If it's anything like my work surface, you've got flour on it. So if you put hot soapy water straight onto your work surface, it's going to do something. Can you remember right the way back? What happens when you put flour and water together? Oh, we've still got it here. What is going on? You are going to end up with stickiness, okay? And we don't want stickiness, otherwise you're going to have it stuck to your work surface for the next week. So scrape down all of the flour off your work surfaces first, then go in hot with hot soapy water. Like I say, otherwise it'll be gluey all over your worktop the rest of the day, okay? We don't want that. So get these now in the oven. Hopefully your oven should be now preheated. Obviously you're all using different ovens as well, so that's going to vary the timings a little bit on this one. Some of you using gas, electric, some are using an Arga. I don't know what you're going to be cooking on. So just keep an eye on it. Okay, don't always keep eye on what's cooking in the oven when you're in there. Get yourself cleaned up, get yourself washed up. So you've got a bit more time now. If you're at school, you've got another 10 minutes or so before break. If you're at Talking Girls Grammar, if you're watching this on YouTube, I don't know how much longer you've got there, but please make sure you are cleaned up as well. Very important. And your sides are all checked by whoever's at home before you carry on, because we want you to be cooking again with me. Okay, so if you're watching this on YouTube, we'll be twice a week. So next week is on Tuesday and Wednesday. I'll be cooking. I'll put the recipes up on YouTube. So if you want to be doing that again, we'd love to see you next week for two days as well. These are also recorded. So they're recorded on YouTube for you to play back. And obviously, Girls at Talking Girls Grammar School, these are recorded and are on your Teams for you to watch back as well. Thank you so much for joining me today for today's class, today's show, all about food. Hopefully you've learned something amazing. I'm sure you've got something wonderful to eat very shortly. Love to see some photos of what you're doing, how you're being creative with yours, how you've made yours different, how you've made yours exciting. That would be lovely. Thank you very much again. Have a lovely rest of your day. Be good, be safe, take care. Goodbye, everybody.